Hi everybody, so today is solving quadratic equations by completing the square day 2. And today I'm going to do numbers 9, 11, 14, and 16. And you're going to be left with the remaining 6, which is 10, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18 for classwork / homework. So, just like yesterday, you want to get a perfect square. And in order to do so, when you're completing the square, you need to leave the term with the variable squared and the term with just the single variable and move this constant 56, in this case, over to be with the negative 25. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to subtract 56 from both sides, and when I do that, I get x squared minus 30x, I'm going to leave a space, equals negative 25 minus 56, which is negative 81. Yes, negative 81. Then I'm going to come over here to the side. My b, in this case, is negative 30. So I'm going to do, let me do it to where you can actually see me writing. I'm going to do negative 30 divided by 2 squared. And when I do that, I get negative 15 squared. And negative 15 squared is 225. So I'm going to take that 225 and add it to both sides. So the 225 comes from the b, negative 30, negative 30. You do negative 30 divided by 2 squared. You get 15 squared, 225. Okay? So now you factor the left side to a perfect square, and then this you just evaluate. So this ends up being x minus 15 squared equals 144. If you are still struggling with factoring, going from the trinomial to this binomial squared, you really need to go back and study your factoring notes and understand that this is a huge part of your, not only your LEAP test, but also for next year when you enter geometry and every math class from here on out, algebra 2 and so on. Factoring is a huge part in all math classes. So you really need to understand this and get a firm foundation from your algebra 1. So x minus 15 squared equals 144. And in order to solve for x, we're going to take the square root of both sides. And when we do that, we get x minus 15 equals positive negative 12. And then we add 15 to both sides. And when we add 15 to both sides, we end up getting, I'm running out of room here again, I'm writing way too big. We end up getting x equals 15 plus 12, and x equals 15 minus 12. 15 plus 12 is 27. 15 minus 12 is 3. Oh, I just realized you can't see that. So that is number 9. Add 15 to both sides. 15 plus 12, 15 minus 12. And you get 27 and 3 for your x values. Now let's go on down to number 11. And again, you want to subtract 4 from both sides. I'm going to try to draw and write a little bit smaller. When you subtract 4 from both sides, you get x squared minus 6x, let me leave a space, equals negative 4. And then come over here, negative 6 divided by 2 squared, that would be negative 3 squared, which would end up being 9. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. Don't forget to do it to the right side. You've got to do it to the left and the right. So x squared minus 6x plus 9. The perfect square of that would be x minus 3 squared equals 5. I'm writing big again. So I'm going to run out of room, but I'll do the best I can. Take the square root and that leaves you with x minus 3 equals the square root of 5. Leave this as the square root of 5. Add 3 to both sides, and this is positive negative square root of 5. So this ends up being x is 3 plus square root of 5, and x equals 3 minus square root of 5. So those are your two answers. X plus square root of 5, or x equals 3 plus square root of 5, x equals 3 minus square root of 5. Anytime you take the square root of something, it's positive, negative, that number. It's very important that you remember that. And this is number 14. No, it's not. This is number 11. Sorry, that's number 11. Okay, now we're doing 14. So I'm going to add 14 to both sides. X squared minus 2x, I'm going to leave a space, equals 14. Over here to the side, negative 2 divided by 2 squared would be negative 1 squared, which is just 1. B, which is negative 2 squared, or negative 2 divided by 2 squared, which is negative 1 squared, which is just positive 1. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to add 1 and add 1. You should know that x squared minus 2x plus 1, the perfect square for that is x minus 1 squared. X minus 1 squared. Take the square root of x minus 1 squared, square root of 15, and I get x minus 1 equals plus minus the square root of 15. I add 1 to both sides, and I get that x equals 1 plus the square root of 15, and x equals 1 minus the square root of 15. 1 plus the square root of 15, 1 minus the square root of 15. So that is number 14. These are not hard. Do not make them hard. As long as you know how to factor to get your perfect square, to get this step, you should be fine. Which, if you haven't noticed already, a trick, the square root of 225 is 15. The square root of 9 is 3. And the square root of 1 is just 1. So you can take your C value in the trinomial and take the square root of it. You've just got to watch out for your B, if it's positive or negative, to determine if it's positive or negative binomial. So if you figured out that pattern in that little trick, good job. Okay, so here, it's already set up for us to where we have to take the perfect square. So our B is -8. Okay, so our B is -8. So I've got -8 divided by 2 squared, which is -4 squared, which is positive 16. I took my B value, divided by 2 squared. So I got 16. So it's going to become x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals -9 plus 16. X squared minus 8x plus 16, square root of 16 is 4. It's -8, so I know it's x minus 4 squared equals 7. Take the square root. And I'm left with x minus 4 equals positive negative square root of 7. Add 4 to both sides. So that gives me x equals 4 plus square root of 7. X equals 4 minus square root of 7. And that's number 16. So I'm going to go back and let you look at all of the problems. That's number 9. And you can pause it on here if you need to. That's number 11. Number 14. And number 16. Okay, so that is completing the square, day 2. And you have 10, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18 to do for classwork/homework. Good luck.